I was having y'all but Rico from Street Scores, and man, finally Chase Young, Montez Sweat, and Charles Leno, our two starting edge rushers and our starting left tackle, have finally returned to Washington facilities for practices. Mandatory minicamp start tomorrow, as in June 6th. They go all the way through June 8th, and then we have another voluntary practice, voluntary OTAs, June 13th. After that, it's going to be like a super dead period until we basically get the training camps. But either way, mandatory mini camps start tomorrow. They go for 3 days, and apparently Chase Young, Montez Sweat, and Charles Leno are not holding out. So that's a positive, but I also want to take a look at our current 2024 free agency situation. It's a lot of people fighting for the same handful of contracts right now. We got to take a look at everybody whose final season on contract with the Commanders is this 2023 season, and all of those guys going out there basically on last year or 1 year prove-it deals. Also, before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel with the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification immediately and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all of my rookie film sessions that I'm about to start coming out with. I'm trying to get one done by today/tonight before these mandatory mini camps start up, and then after mandatory mini camps stop and we're done with OTAs and we have that huge dead period up till training camp, I'm gonna for sure be working on those rookie film sessions. And like I said, I'm also working on some undrafted free agents as well. I believe I'm gonna just go ahead and knock out Emmanuel Forbes first, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Without further ado, let's get it.
You tell your family you can be a commander.
All right, so Chase Young is in the building. Practices don't officially start until tomorrow, but players are reporting today, taking pictures, doing all that type of stuff. Whenever you see like random Commanders GIFs or really professional photos, these are the times where they do those. Everything is mandatory, so that shows that nobody's holding out, like doing a full-blown holdout. Everybody's going to be present. At least everybody that's healthy is going to be there for mandatory minicamp starting tomorrow. Again, Chase Young is checked in. You can see it in this video right here with all of the gear on and everything.
CY99, man, checking in for me today. Yes, sir.
And then we don't have video proof that Montez Sweat and Charles Leno are there as well, but John Com reported that they are. OTAs, voluntary, minicamp, mandatory, practices Tuesday through Thursday. He just wanted to reiterate that like, I mean, they weren't there for voluntary stuff, and I mean, I guess that's kind of news, but it's nothing serious. As long as they're there for mandatory minicamps, which it sounds like they are, we should be straight. Because there's no reason for them to report today when there's no practice and then not show up tomorrow when there is practice, mandatory practice. That would be weird. So we can assume, I think it's safe to just go ahead and think that those guys are not holding out. We can move on. Also, Curtis Samuel checked in. He finally showed off his new number with this video right here.
Hey, this Curtis Samuel. I know what it is. Hey, this 4 looking nice on me. Got to take it back to the college days. Let's do it. 10 is done, 4 we back. Let's do it.
So all of this is great news, fantastic news. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, how excited can we be? Because a lot of us, including me, have been telling you not to panic. It's not that serious. We'll see what happens. But now we get to the really interesting part. And this is the part where it gets a little salty, a little bit sad, because if you're looking at our list of 2024 free agents, guys whose contracts end after this 2023 playoffs season, because I'm gonna keep speaking it into existence, I don't care. You have Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Kendall Fuller, Cameron Curl, Curtis Samuel, Antonio Gibson, James Smith-Williams, who's now a backup as long as Chase Young and Montez Sweat are there, but he was starting at defensive end for us like 85% of last season, all the way up till Chase Young got back healthy. Then you have Jeremy Reeves, the All-Pro, but he's a free agent after this 2023 season because we just re-signed him to a quick 1-year deal this past offseason, like literally just a few months ago. Then you have Jacoby Brissett, who we signed on a 1-year deal. Cody Barton, we signed on a 1-year deal. F.A. Abato on a 1-year deal as well. But all of these guys are 2024 free agents. So before we even dive into that list, don't forget Charles Leno. Charles Leno technically has a contract going through 2024, but he's a $14.25 million cap hit in the 2024 season. If we cut him, we only take on $2.25 million worth of dead cap. So if we were to cut him after this season, after the end of the 2023 season, we could get back $12 million worth of cap space just for the 2024 season alone. So, hey, man, even though he's not somebody whose contract ends in 2024, ends after the 2023 season, people are definitely going to be looking at him a little funny as if his contract is up, because to be able to save $12 million of the $14 million that he's going to eat up next year, people are definitely going to be looking at him funny, especially if we go and pursue a starting left tackle in free agency or the draft. Maybe we take one in the first round or something like that. Yeah, Charles Leno, man, even though you're technically not a 2024 free agent, you're not any more safe than any of these other guys whose contracts end. So, of course, we already have, let's just start with the defensive ends. You have Chase Young, Montez Sweat, James Smith-Williams, and F.A. Abada, all defensive end edge rushers, pretty much fighting for the same couple of contracts. You can easily say that Chase Young and Montez Sweat are fighting for one contract together. Who's going to get it at the end of this season? That's going to be an interesting battle, because those guys are like best friends. Like, those guys do pretty much everything together, so I'm pretty sure there's no bad blood there, but that's a really interesting situation. I mean, hopefully both of them go out there and just super ball out to the point where they just figure out a way to pay everybody, pay both of them. And then James Smith-Williams and F.A. Abada, of course, they're defensive ends and edge rushers as well, but they're not really competing for the Chase Young and Montez Sweat money. I highly doubt it. I highly doubt they go out there and have great enough seasons to where we even have to really think about it. Those guys are depth guys. We'll more than likely bring them back for really cheap, and if we don't, it's not like we'll just lose games because we don't have these guys. Not like the fan base or the coaching staff is gonna panic. So those guys are names that are noteworthy. I want to make sure you are aware that those guys' contracts do end at the end of the season. But really, the whole defensive end group, everybody but KJ Henry and Andre Jones, who we just drafted, all of their contracts end after this season. That's even including the backups like William Bradley King, Casey Toohill, Joshua Pryor, who's an undrafted free agent that's pretty much only here because of the 90-man roster situation. And then maybe you even want to include Abdullah Anderson in that group as well, even though a lot of people view him as a defensive tackle. But either way, man, our edge rusher group, if we fast forwarded to 2024 right now and nothing changed, the only defensive ends we would have on contract are literally just the guys we just drafted, and that's KJ Henry and Andre Jones. So that's a little scary, but I'm pretty sure we're going to figure it out and make things work at some point. Then also secondary wise, you have Kendall Fuller, Cameron Curl, and Jeremy Reeves. And this is really interesting because, I mean, Kendall Fuller and Cameron Curl play completely different positions. And even though Jeremy Reeves is a safety just like Cameron Curl, he's our best special teams player, arguably the best special teams player in the entire NFL, because he was the all-pro. He wasn't just Pro Bowl. He was the all-pro special teamer, like first team, like he's the guy type of thing. So you could easily say that he is the best special teams player out of the entire NFL and easily on our team, most impactful at the very least. So at the end of the day, even though he is a safety like Cameron Curl, they're two completely different guys. You can easily re-sign Cameron Curl and Jeremy Reeves long-term, both of those guys, because Jeremy Reeves, you don't really expect him to contribute much on the defensive side of the ball, but the special teams, big time. And then Cameron Curl, man, I think the deal gets done. I mean, Ron Rivera has spoken about Cameron Curl specifically, even ignoring all of these other 2024 free agents. He's spoken about Cameron Curl specifically several times. And he even said a few months ago, like before the draft, that basically they have strong interest in re-signing Cameron Curl long-term, and it's one of their offseason priorities, but they have to wait until the team is officially sold for Josh Harris and all those guys to officially take complete control of the team from Dan Snyder and talk it over with him to see if he's down to do the same thing, and then they'll go through with it. So on Rivera and Martin Mayhew's side, they're definitely down to extend Cameron Curl, but they gotta wait to see if Josh Harris is down as well, and all of those other owners, Magic Johnson, all of these other guys. So I mean, Josh Harris is gonna pretty much run the show, so if he wants to do it, I'm pretty sure it will get done. But I'm not too worried about the Cameron Curl situation. The Kendall Fuller situation is really interesting because even though if we see him as a future part of this team, you could argue he's one of the safest players out of this entire list. But at the same time, you're looking at him like you may not even make it to the end of this season. Like if Emmanuel Forbes, Quan Martin in the slot, and Benjamin St-Juste on the opposite of Emmanuel Forbes on the outside, those are your starting corners. And if you cut Kendall Fuller, you can save like $10 million worth of cap space. You're starting to look like, hey, Kendall Fuller, man, Don't know what to tell you. You may not even make it through this 2023 season. And I love Kendall Fuller, and I want to keep him as well, even though he is pretty expensive to be somebody that's brought in as part of like a rotation, or maybe a lot of people don't see him as a rotation. They see him starting, but it's like, who do you bench? You can't bench Benjamin St. Juste because he did the best job you can do against Justin Jefferson and A.J. Brown. You could probably ask Justin Jefferson and A.J. Brown themselves who played the best coverage against them all last season. And I feel like both of those guys would at the very least say Benjamin St. Juste was top 3. And so you can't bench them because, first of all, we don't have anybody else like that. The only other guy that we had that was like 6'3" and extremely long, like Benjamin St. Juste, with some change direction type of ability, is Cam Dantzler, and we cut him. Benjamin St. Juste is our only 6'3", really tall, really long corner left. So as far as a specific role, that's all we have. And then Quan Martin, he already looks special, and he's looking like our starting slot. And it really doesn't matter if you see him as a starting slot or not, because we don't view Kendall Fuller as a starting slot. We don't see even Emmanuel Forbes as a slot. We're playing him there in the offseason right now so he can learn the entire secondary. Basically, they just want to throw everything at him, throw the whole book at him, so that when he's only playing on the outside, which is what he's going to do, it feels even easier to him because he's had to even play in the slot. He's had to play everywhere in the secondary. So I like that logic, but the fact that we see him playing in the slot in practices so far, that's not a real thing. John Com and all of these guys have already come out and said he will not be playing in the slot. He's a pure outside corner, and if Kendall Fuller is also a pure outside corner, and if Benjamin St. Juste is way better on the outside than in the slot, who's going to play in the slot? I'm assuming it's Quan Martin. So, okay, Benjamin St. Juste one side, Quan Martin on the other. You're going to bench your 16th overall pick, your first round pick for Kendall Fuller? And especially with as well as Emmanuel Forbes has looked against Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson already in practices, and we just started. We haven't even gotten the mandatory mini camps yet. He's only going to get better and better each day. And with those guys on the field, with Benjamin St. Juste, you have length and change of direction. With Quan Martin, you have explosion and versatility. With Emmanuel Forbes, you have length and speed, quickness, explosion, all of that. Kendall Fuller, love him, arguably the smartest corner in the NFL, but just body-wise, athleticism-wise, he's lacking in a huge way compared to those other guys. Now, you could argue maybe between him and Benjamin St. Juste are our slowest corners on the roster. Either way, though, Benjamin St. Juste brings a size and a length that Kendall Fuller doesn't bring. Kendall Fuller, literally all he has as an advantage over everybody is mentality, IQ, awareness, all of that type of stuff. And that's big time. I'm not trying to play that down, but it's just like, where do you play him? And so if they start to view him as not like a necessary piece to this defense, I love to have him. And back to my main point, what I was really trying to get to is that, do you trust Benjamin St. Juste and Emmanuel Forbes and Quan Martin, all three of those guys, to stay healthy for the entire 17-game season? I don't. So you would love to at least have Kendall Fuller just in case one of those guys gets hurt. Well, one of the outside guys, Forbes, with his lack of size. Benjamin St. Juste has already shown us he can't play a full 16, 17 game season. So you would love to have Kendall Fuller there just in case one of those guys gets hurt. He can start on the outside opposite of the other guy that's still healthy, and then you don't really miss a beat that much. I mean, granted, again, like I've already explained, Emmanuel Forbes is a speed demon, quickness. Benjamin St. Juste has length. Kendall Fuller doesn't have any of those things, but he's still a really good second corner. Other teams would love to have Kendall Fuller as their CB2. They would love it. And the fact that we're talking about him being like third or fourth is crazy. So again, me personally, I'm not assuming that Benjamin St. Juste and Emmanuel Forbes, again, with his lack of size, being able to stay healthy the entire season. So I would love to keep Kendall Fuller. But I'm just presenting to you why Kendall Fuller is a cut candidate before the end of the season, or maybe even a trade candidate going towards the trade deadline in like October, when veteran stocks are like usually higher than ever at that point. So maybe before, during the draft, sometimes veteran stocks go a little bit higher because you can trade for draft picks directly. Or maybe when we start to get to training camp and guys start getting hurt on other teams, maybe the stock will rise. But to me, the highest a guy like a Kendall Fuller stock will ever be is during that trade deadline leading up to it, because there's going to be a Super Bowl contender that's looking around like, man, if we could just have a player as good as a Kendall Fuller, that all we got to do is add him to our defense and we feel like we can make a strong run for a Super Bowl. A lot of teams are going to be looking around and they're going to be like, wait a minute, there is a Kendall Fuller that may be available, so let's trade for him. And so And then we could get more for Kendall Fuller leading up to that trade deadline than we could at any other time in the entire year, the entire season, or whatever. So, I mean, just to keep you aware, don't be surprised if Kendall Fuller ends up getting traded or cut or something just because of the situation. So there goes Kendall Fuller. Then Antonio Gibson. Granted, we did bring in Chris Rodriguez, who was a 6th round pick, but they're expecting him and Brian Robinson to basically be the bell cows. So where does Antonio Gibson fit in all of that? And I think he's actually going to fit in very well. I think he's going to be utilized a lot. Like Curtis Samuel, who's another guy that's going to be a 2024 free agent, is going to be more the gadgety guy, reverses and all that stuff. I think Antonio Gibson is going to matter more to this offense and have a bigger impact than people think. I think Eric Bieniemy is going to love Antonio Gibson, because if you see Curtis Samuel as like an Isaiah Pacheco, a more talented version, you can easily see Antonio Gibson as a more talented Clyde Edwards-Helaire. If we're just talking about pure athleticism and build, speed, strength, all of that type of stuff, Antonio Gibson is a more naturally talented guy than Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And you saw that both him and Isaiah Pacheco were able to eat up and contribute a lot in the Eric Bieniemy offense alongside Travis Kelce, which we don't have. So, and then it used to be Tyreek Hill a couple of years ago, and I guess you can maybe say that's Terry McLaurin. But Eric Bieniemy has shown that he can involve a lot of unique pieces in the offense, and everybody gets fed. All mouths get fed, and I think Antonio Gibson will have a larger role than people think. So I'm really excited about that. And then going back to Curtis Samuel real quick, I mean, I think he's going to be a huge part of this offense, but I don't necessarily think that's going to take much away from Antonio Gibson. I think him and Antonio Gibson will both be utilized more than Scott Turner was utilizing either of those guys last year. I think they're both going to have big seasons, but I mean, when we get to the end of the season and we have limited money, we're already struggling to pay our defensive ends, and then you're looking at Kendall Fuller, you're looking at Cameron Curl, and you're trying to pay him, and I think if anybody gets an extension before this regular season starts, it's probably Cameron Curl above everybody else on this list. Then you're looking at it, Curtis Samuel and Antonio Gibson. How are we going to pay both of y'all? And it's going to get really weird. Jeremy Reeves is all-pro safety, and granted, we got him for a really cheap one-year deal this offseason. Maybe he wants more next season if he does the same thing again. Then Jacoby Brissett, your backup quarterback. He's probably just going to be gone. Sam Howell's going to be ready to be like a true franchise quarterback. I'm optimistic about it. We won't even need like a Jacoby Brissett level backup quarterback. We can just bring in some other random guy that's maybe like a guy that we're grooming as like an athletic, high ceiling boomer bust type of guy behind him, but I don't think we'll need the certified veteran he can step in and win you games immediately type of backup after the season. So he's probably gone. Cody Barton is basically on a one-year prove-it deal. Go out there and show that we need to pay you at linebacker long term. Even if he does ball out, I don't think he'll end up asking for too much money or getting too much money from us anyway. So you're really looking at Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Kendall Fuller, Cameron Curl, Curtis Samuel, and Antonio Gibson fighting for like a few contracts, like a handful. I know several of those guys play different positions from each other, but it's only a certain amount of money. It's not like the cap space is broken up by position. Like you have this much money to spend on receivers, this much money to spend on corners, things like that. No, it's an overall cap space for the entire team. So yeah, they're all fighting for the same money right now. So things can get really interesting. Things can get really ugly when it comes to that. So I'm just making y'all aware. I know we're happy about Chase Young and all of these guys returning to mandatory mini camps and stuff like that, but we got to look ahead and wonder, how are we going to pay all of these guys after this season, man? Also, Ron Rivera, Eric Bieniemy, and Alex Smith are on the ballot for the College Football Hall of Fame class of 2024. So shouts out to them, man. That's great to hear. That's really, really great to hear. Me-wise, I have Garrison Hurst from Georgia and also Richard Seymour from Georgia as well. So I'm happy to see them on the list as well. But as far as Commanders go, there goes your three. Shouts out to all of them. And then lastly, also speaking of Cameron Curl, the locks are gone. He cut them off. You can see in this video right here.
Hey y'all, it's Cam Curl here at Commanders Media Day 2023.
That's crazy, man. That don't even look like the same guy to me. I ain't gonna lie, man. But shouts out to him, man. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please leave a like on this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. As always, man, I appreciate all the support, man. Shouts out to all my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors whose names you see scrolling on the screen right now, man. I really appreciate y'all. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Chase Young, Montez Sweat, and Charles Leno returning to camp. Us having no real holdouts. Even Cameron Curl is probably going to participate in things like that, even though he wants his next contract. And how do you feel about all of our our 2024 potential free agents that are coming up, who do you prioritize over others? Who are guys you like, we can just let them walk and find a replacement? Who are guys that you definitely don't want to let them walk? Who do you choose between Chase Young and Montez Sweat? Who do you choose between Antonio Gibson and Curtis Samuel? Do you want to keep Kendall Fuller through the season and pay him the next contract, or are you willing to let him go after the season? Do you want to trade him or release him during this season? Let me know all of that. And without further ado, man, I'm going to catch y'all later. I'm out.